Good morning. Welcome to our Fusion Sunday School lesson for Sunday, September the 13th. This is on page 18 in your student magazine. I hope you're reading the magazine. There's some really good articles in there that I think would really benefit all of our parents to look at and to know about current things going on. So the way the study guide is set up, we'll have a lesson today, and then you'll have 5 devotionals that will follow starting on Monday, running through Friday. So I encourage you each week to take out your magazine, your Family Fusion magazine, and follow along in your magazine and try to keep up with the information that is in there. Some really very helpful information for our parents and for our kids in our church. Today's lesson is called Evidence All Around Us. We're studying in the book of Genesis. Our family theme is, how do we know God exists? How do we know there is a God? How do we know that He's out there and active not only in our lives but in creation and the things around us? Our study text is going to be coming from Genesis, Romans, Psalms, and Hebrews. So we'll be bouncing around this morning a good bit. You have a new handout page, the D6 Everyday Parent page. I have copied those, and those were placed in your magazine. There's one for today, September the 13th, so I encourage you to pull that page out during this lesson, or if you're listening to this lesson while traveling or something, at your earliest convenience, take out that little study sheet. Take a look at it, the information that's on the front and the back of that sheet, some of which I will cover in the lesson today. But it's just good information, gives you some good pointers, and a good summary of everything that we're looking at today. I hope you did your homework. You were supposed to memorize Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And I hope you studied that and memorized that. I hope your family memorized that. It would be good to follow up with that with your kids and make sure they have memorized it as well. Foundational to our Christian worldview is Genesis 1:1. If you cannot accept that God created everything, then you cannot accept God. And so it's a foundational verse, the very first verse in the Bible, one that every single Christian should have memorized. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Who is God? God is a spirit. In John chapter 4, verse 24, we see that, and I'll read those in just a second. God is a spirit who is the creator of everything. He is perfectly good and has all power. God is a personal being who thinks, feels, speaks, and acts. So God is real. Let's look at those verses quickly. God is a spirit, and they that worship Him must worship Him in spirit and in truth. John 4:24. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. God created, not some cosmic storm in the cesspool. Psalms 34:8. O taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man that trusts in Him. God is good, and you and I should trust in Him. Isaiah 40:10. Behold, the Lord God will come with strong hand, and His arm shall rule for Him. Behold, His reward is with Him, and His work before Him. Isaiah was talking of a future time when God would return to the earth to gather His children home to be with Him in a place called heaven by Christians today. So we look forward to that day. As we look at these verses, I'll read again. God is a spirit who is the creator of everything. He is perfectly good and has all power. God is a personal being who thinks, feels, speaks, and acts. Sometimes we refer to God, maybe unintentionally, to our children as being something distant, something as a an object of worship, a cross, a statue, something along those lines, a picture. God is not those objects. God is a person. He is God. He thinks, he feels, he speaks. He's the creator. He has all power. He has power over the storms, power over everything. And he is the creator. So don't, and I guess what comes to my mind is sometimes in our home we may have a little picture, or I know some denominations, Catholics and others, will set up a little prayer station in their home, and maybe they have a crucifix and a statue of Mary and a picture of Jesus or something, and they may light a candle or something, and that's all well and good. I'm not going to criticize having a place in your home to worship and that kind of thing, but God is not that picture. God is not that statue. He's not that crucifix. God is a real person. So don't diminish him to a picture or a statue or some object. He's a person, and he wants to dwell within our hearts. He wants to dwell with man. That has been his goal from the beginning, and he loves us. He loves us dearly. So please don't paint a picture to your children that God is an object. He's a person, and he's a person to be loved, and a person to be served, and we need to serve him just as if he were a king or a ruler over us. He is our God. And in our lesson today, as we go back to the title, evidence all around us. Okay, so we're talking about evidence of God. Who is God? God's a person. He's a real thing. Where's the evidence for God being real? Somebody has said to me before, and folks will say it from time to time, prove to me there is a God. Well, look around you. The sun comes up. It moves across the sky. There's warmth. There's protection from harmful radiation. There's, so many things about the earth are evidence of a God. And that brings us to our first thought. Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. This theory is called first cause. Ken Ham, the Creation Museum, the Ark exhibit, and amusement park in Kentucky. I encourage everybody at some point in your life, make a trip to the Creation Museum and make a trip there. If you can't go in person, do a virtual trip. Do a virtual viewing of those facilities. It's amazing what Ken Ham and his associates have put together, but it all helps us to see the reality of God and the fact that he's in creation. First cause. The first cause argument states that everything that begins to exist must have a cause. If I go out to a pond, let's just say there's no wind blowing, there's no fish stirring, that pond is going to be flat. The water is going to be still, and there's not going to be a ripple on that water. Now, it will stay that way until something alters it. Either a fish swims to the surface and flips its fin and causes a ripple. A turtle sends up bubbles. The earth sends up bubbles. I throw a rock in. Something else is put in the water. Then there will be a ripple. But that water just sitting there by itself is not going to create a wave or a ripple without something acting upon it. So what caused that ripple? If you see a ripple in the water, what caused it? And what got it going? It didn't just happen by itself. So much in creation is the same way. Things don't just happen by themselves. The sun just didn't happen into existence. The earth didn't just happen into existence. So we have some principles that goes along with first cause. The first cause principles are whatever begins to exist has a cause. It didn't just happen. There's something out there. If it exists, it has a cause. The universe began to exist. At some point in time, the universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe had a cause. Okay? Something caused it. So, in science, they trace back to the beginning. What caused the universe? Well, there's a lot of theories out there. But the best theory, which is actually the facts, are Genesis 1 and 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. God decided he wanted an earth. God decided he wanted a human race, and God created them. I'm satisfied with that. It takes less faith for me to believe that than to believe that there was a cesspool on an uninhabited planet and some storm just happened to appear and there was lightning that just happened to strike at the most opportune time, and there just happened to be an organism in the water, and it just happened to be affected by the lightning, and it just happened to begin to develop, and then it just happened to crawl out of the water, and it just happened to continue to exist, and began to bring about other things that also began to exist. It really takes a stretch of my imagination to see all those things come into place by chance. Eyeballs, how did they just by chance come into existence? Bombardier beetles, how did they just by chance come into existence? Geckos who have the little suction cups on their hands and feet, which enables them to climb walls and to move about flat horizontal surfaces or vertical surfaces. How did that just happen to develop? There's too many things in the world around us that could not have just happened to exist. There was a cause. There was a need, and the Creator met that need, and He developed this organism or this situation. The planets, did they just happen from some kind of cosmic event? No. God created the heavens and God created the earth. And Genesis 1 and 1 is the foundation of that. There's a website you can go to, josh.org, and look up first cause, and it will help you, give you more information about the first cause argument. We need to talk about first cause with our kids. They're going to get evolution in school. They're going to get millions and millions of years, things developed over this millions and millions and millions of years, one little step at a time to get us to the point where we are today. So much of that doesn't hold water when you really begin to critically analyze that information. So I urge you to become familiar with answers in Genesis.org. Become familiar with the Creation Museum in Ken Ham. Become familiar with the Ark exhibit. They have a wealth of material that supports the book of Genesis and the biblical worldview. And I encourage you very much to dig into first cause, understand first cause. What is first cause? And it's a great argument for our children to be able to defend their faith against the lies of Satan that are floating around in the world today. The days of creation, we went over this last week. Day 1, God created the heavens and the earth. In day 2, he separated light and day and created the atmosphere. Day 3, dry land with vegetation. Day 4, the moon, the stars, and the planets. Day 5, the fowls and the fish of the sea. And day 6, the animals and the human race. I'm satisfied with that. And I'm satisfied with it being a literal 6-day creation. There was a cause, and God developed that cause. All these things exist, therefore there is a creator. They could not be here without a creator. So this is from AnswersInGenesis.com, a 2004 graphic that they have. The key truth: design indicates a designer, and that's what I was getting to. You know, when you look at the earth and the heavens, if you look at the atmosphere, you look at the dry land, the plants, the planets, their placement, where they, how they interact with earth, and the things that take place, the fish of the sea and the fowls of the air and all the land-dwelling animals. How can you not look at all of these things and come to the conclusion that they just happened by chance, and that one tiny little cell in a cesspool started it all? How could you even fathom that? I can't. I can't see it at all. I believe there is a intelligent design. Things that are out there are there for a reason, and I may not fully understand all the reason, but they're there for a reason, and they play into God's overall plan of a heaven and an earth. And so if there are these things out there that were created by a creator, I believe that creator is God. I believe that the creator was not just millions and millions of years of trial and error to get us to the point where we are today. I don't think the universe has been trial and error in creating itself. It did not. There's too much intelligent design out there. Something like an eyeball required intelligent design. The explosive ability of a bombardier beetle, that required intelligent design. These things don't just happen. So intelligent design is another term that you need to be familiar with as a parent, talking about the book of Genesis, and helping your kids to work through their science at school and in college. I believe in intelligent design. I don't think things just happen. Therefore, if there is an intelligent design, there had to be a designer. You don't just throw metal, rubber, bolts, and screws into a bag and out comes a vehicle. It doesn't happen that way. There was an intelligent design for a vehicle, and therefore there was a designer. That vehicle didn't just come into existence by itself. Someone had knowledge, God-given, and began to put that knowledge into action, and that action resulted in an automobile. So I don't believe in random development or random growth. I believe there was an intelligent design, and therefore there was a designer. In Romans 1:19 and 20 it says, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. And then Psalm 19:1 says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. As scientists look at the world around us, Christian Science is moving in the direction of intelligent design. And the fact that if you can prove something could not have evolved to the state that it's in, then something had to act upon it to cause it to be what it is. And I know these are big words, and this is sometimes a deep conversation. But folks, our kids need this foundation. Our kids need to know how to defend the biblical worldview. First cause is important. Intelligent design is important for them to be armed with that information. Now, they aren't going to be tested on intelligent design in the public school system. They're not going to be tested on first cause in the school system. But when they see the counterfeit, they will know it's a counterfeit because they know the truth of the Bible. They know the truth of Genesis. They know that there is a designer. They know that there is intelligent design. They know there's first cause. They know that creation points to the designer. Creation points to a first cause. Creation points to God as being the one that initiated everything that's in existence today. And that's important. That's foundational for us to believe and to know that God created everything. Therefore, if God created everything, I'm to serve God. If it just happened by chance over time, and God is not an authority, then who should I obey? What standard should I go by? How should I base my decisions? See, a lot of times we don't arm our children with the very foundational truth that God created them, God created the earth, and therefore they should obey God. Now, sometimes in my correcting my children, rather than saying, I said you couldn't do something, I have been known to say, how do you think God would think about that? Because they understand God as creator. They understand God as being ultimately in control of the universe, and therefore He's a greater authority even than me. And that's the way our parents should see God, as being the ultimate authority, and that I submit to Him, so they should submit to Him. I believe He's the designer, so they should believe He's the designer. I believe there was a first cause, so they should believe there's a first cause. Parents, we are the impression makers in our children. And if we don't give them a good, positive impression of God, then nobody else will. So I encourage you, spend time with your children, helping them to understand the book of Genesis and the fact that God created everything. And because He created everything, He gets to make the rules. We used to play backyard football or backyard sports of various different kinds, and whoever's house you were playing at, they got to make the rules. So this is God's house. He gets to make the rules. It's His earth. It's His creation. He gets to make the rules. When we look at intelligent design, there's two paragraphs in your day sheet with your kids that I wanted to read. One is, the human body reproduces 2 million red blood cells every second. We do not have to tell our bodies to do this. They just do it. In one day, the average human body will produce 200 billion red blood cells, constantly removing carbon dioxide from the body, transporting it to the lungs to be exhaled out of the body. This type of intricate detail does not point to chance, but to a designer. The way our bodies work is not by chance. Something had to have designed the human body. It didn't just evolve. I can assure you, it did not just happen. There was a designer. Things in our body are too intricate. They work so effectively when the body is healthy. We cannot imagine No human being, I'll put it this way, no human being has been able to create another human being from a test tube and materials. It does require a mom and a dad to create another human being. And that creation was designed by God. It's influenced by God, and that's the only way you're going to come up with another human, is by that process. And now, due to its size, the gravitational force on Jupiter is 2.4 times the gravity on Earth. If Jupiter were not this size, requiring such a strong gravitational pull, and if it were not positioned where it is in our solar system, Earth would be hit by daily meteor showers, rendering it uninhabitable. Jupiter acts as a protector for Earth, taking the hits on our behalf. I didn't know this. I didn't know that the size of Jupiter made it a magnet to the meteors in our solar system, preventing those meteors from striking the Earth on a regular daily basis. So, once again, the universe, intelligent design. How could that have just happened? I don't believe it. I will never believe it. I believe in intelligent design, and therefore I believe in a designer. And I have no doubt in my mind that designer is God. And I hope you will convey that to your children. Now, last key truth in our lesson today: our sense of right and wrong points to a righteous God. Now, there's barbarian cultures out there, but they seem to have a sense of what's right and wrong. Even in the world around us, in the absence of God, there is a right and a wrong. Cultures have always dealt with members of their culture who acted outside the cultural norms. Now, current thinking is that we can make our own what is right and wrong. It changes based on culture at any point in time. So right and wrong is relative to the opinions of the current culture. But the fact that there is a sense of right and wrong points to the fact that there's a God that is righteous. Because if there was no sense of right and wrong, then people would live any way they choose all the time. Now, we're kind of moving in a direction of that. People want to be able to misbehave and not be held accountable. We see that in our own culture. That's why they hate police officers. People don't want to be held accountable to a standard. But the simple fact that even in the absence of Christianity, in culture there's a sense of right and wrong points to the fact that the creator of this culture instilled within us a sense of right and wrong. So if there is a sense of right and wrong instilled within us, doesn't it make sense that there's a righteous God that created us? Yes, it does. In Romans 2:12 it says, "For as many as have sinned without law shall also perish without law, and as many as have sinned in the law shall be judged by the law. For not the hearers of the law are just before God, but the doers of the law shall be justified. For when the Gentiles, which have not the law, do by nature the things contained in the law, these having not the law are a law unto themselves, which show the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience also bearing witness, and their thoughts the meanwhile accusing or excusing one another." Now, there's a lot of fancy words in this particular passage, pointing to the simple fact that there's a sense within every person of right and wrong, and that sense comes from God. In Hebrews 10:16 it says, "This is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their hearts, and in their minds will I write them." So innate within people is a sense of right and wrong. And that sense comes from our divine creator God. And it's just another proof that there is a God, that he is a righteous God, and that he created us to have some sense about us of what's right and what's wrong. Where does the human race's universal sense of right and wrong come from? There must be a righteous creator. Therefore, he is the standard of right and wrong. So, if God created us and instilled within us a sense of what's right and what's wrong, he is then the authority of what's right and what's wrong. So how do I know what's right and wrong? The Bible, God's Word, then should be the standard by which we measure right and wrong. And see, our culture wants to remove the Bible and teaching of the Bible. Why? Because they want to get rid of the standard. They want to get rid of the restrictions. They want to get to the point where they do what they want to do. Well, folks, that is not right. That is not justified in God's eyes. And so we need to understand that. We need to know that. And ultimately, that's the truth of this lesson, is the Bible is the Word of God, and it's the standard by which you and I should go by, and we need to teach it to our children to the best of our ability. Enable them to have the tools necessary to succeed in life. One of the greatest tools that we can give our kids to succeed in life is the foundation that God created the heaven and the earth. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That's ultimately foundational to a Christian worldview, and the starting place that we need to instill in our children a sense of who's in control. God is, because he created everything. Hope to see you guys at 10 o'clock for our worship service. Hope to be back in Sunday school very soon. Have a great day.